Hi everyone and welcome to Ready Steady Freefrom, and today we are cooking enchiladas. Now we're going to be doing this in 3 stages. So we've got the sauce, the wraps and the chicken. Now you can do these in any order, but I'm going to do it in that order today. So you'll see how kind of going to be multitasking here. But you can make all of these things separately and then bring them together last minute when you want to, okay? So to start off with then, we're going with the enchilada sauce, and we're going to be doing this on the stove top, and it takes about 20 minutes, but 15 minutes of that is the sauce just bubbling away on the stove. So here we have just a regular saucepan, and we've got nothing in it at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of olive oil in there. So we're going for about a tablespoonful of olive oil. Put the heat on. We're just going to go for a medium heat. So not low, not high, just somewhere in the middle. And we're going for about 2 tablespoons of tomato puree. Now what we're going to do is just cook out this tomato puree into the oil. So because here it's sizzling away here a little bit. So we're just going to let that sizzle away. We're not going to let it get too hot. We'll just mix this around a bit. Okay, just going to turn the heat down a little bit. Okay. So next to go in then, we are going to put in the herbs and spices. Now, it's really nice when you put herbs and spices into a heat and kind of help them release their flavours. So that's what we're going to do next. So we're going for half a teaspoon of onion powder. Okay. Then we are going to go for half a teaspoon of cumin. So just mix that. Oh, the smell. Oh my days, the smell is just, oh, it's wonderful. Okay, turning the heat down a little bit more. So I don't want anything to start catching. We don't want any burnt tasting anything in this. So you can see that the oil has been absorbed into the tomato puree. It's really quite a dry pan, so we don't want it to get too dry, so we don't want it to burn. So keep an eye on that heat, keep it down. I've got it quite low, you can barely see the flames there. So that's the tomato puree. So we've got the onion powder, the cumin. Now we're going for the chili powder. Now I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of chili powder in. Now this is mild chili powder that I'm using, and so this is very much about your own preference. The last time I made it, I put 2 tablespoons in, and it was a little bit too hot for our family. So we're going for a good tablespoon there of chili powder, and that should make it palatable and tasty still. Okay, so it's really quite dry in the pan now, as you can see. This starts to take your breath away a bit, and I might start coughing. I just remembered this is what happened last time, especially with 2 tablespoons of chili powder. It did start making me cough. Okay, so then we've got a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then we have some broth. So all of the spices are in there, lovely. So we're going to add some broth now. Now we're going for 2 cups of broth. Now this is homemade broth, so it's just bone broth, chicken. I told you about the coughing. It's the spices, they kind of get to the back of your throat. Maybe if you've got one of those sanding masks, you could pop that on if you're worried about the coughing. You might be used to it. I'm not used to frying off chili and spices and stuff, so okay. So now I'll put 1 of the cups of stock in. So I'm going to raise the temperature a little bit. and just going to get it all mixed in. Now ideally I could do with a whisk. Going to add the other cup of stock. Now if you are using a stock that is not homemade, then be cautious to how much salt you put in with the 1/4 teaspoon, because stock that you buy that's like a cube, it will have quite a lot of salt in it. So you might want to put the stock in first, then taste it and see if it needs a little extra salt. So that's the sauce made, believe it or not. What we do now is we put a lid on it and we leave it for 15 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to leave it on the stove for 15 minutes and just let it cook away. And while that's cooking away, we're going to make the wraps. We're back now, and the sauce is simmering for 15 minutes. I put the timer on, so I don't need to worry about that. I can just forget about that. It's just simmering on very low heat, all right? So we leave that and forget about that. It's on the back of the stove, and we're going to be cooking on the stove again in a minute with the coconut flour wraps. So let's get cracking with the coconut flour wraps. Now in this bowl, we've got 1/2 cup of coconut flour, all right? We're going to put the dry ingredients first, and then we're going to put the wet ingredients in. So we've got 1/2 cup coconut flour, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So we'll pop that in here. And then we're going to put 1 tablespoon of gelatin in. So we'll just sprinkle that gelatin in. Okay. Then we are going to pop in any additional seasoning that we want. Now you could just leave these plain. I'm going to add coriander and parsley to it. I find that parsley gives a very nice cooling effect to the wraps. We're going for about 1/2 teaspoon there of each. You could put paprika, you could put cumin, you could put chili powder, you could even put chili flakes in it if you wanted that extra kick. And so you could put anything in it that you wanted to. So we're just going to give that a little mix. And this really does make a difference to the wraps. Gives a really nice flavour to it. I might even put a bit of paprika in it actually. We're going to put some paprika in it. And that'll give it a nice colour as well. So we're going for about 1/2 teaspoon of that as well. Okay, so we've got all the dry ingredients in there. Now bearing in mind the gelatin is in there. Now, the gelatin gives a sturdier wrap. You don't have to use the gelatin. Now we're going to add the wet ingredients. So the wet ingredients are, we've got 1½ cups of nut milk. Now if you don't use the gelatin, only use 1¼ cups of nut milk. That's 1½ . Now I'm going to whisk it because I don't want coconut flour lumps in my wraps. Okay, so I've literally just combined it, and now I'm going to add 6 eggs. So there we are. That is the coconut flour wrap mixture that we're then going to fry, a bit like pancakes, like French crepes. So we're just going to leave it to absorb for a bit, because we know that with coconut flour you need to allow that absorption time. We're going to leave that to absorb the coconut flour, and I'm going to prep the frying pan ready for frying. Okay, here we are. We've got the frying pan. We've got the shield. So this is my shield for if it splatters out, because the recipe that I'm using for this is requiring a lid. Okay, now I don't have a lid for this frying pan, so I'm going to use this, which acts just great. It just keeps that moisture in and it helps it to fluff up a little bit. I've got my plate here ready to pop the wraps on when they're cooked. Now, as I said, you can do all of these things separately. So if you wanted to do the wraps, you could do a stack of them, pop them in the fridge, and you can use them for sandwiches, which is a fantastic idea as an alternative to bread. So let's get cracking and see how the coconut flour mixture is thickening up. Here we go. That sauce is killing me. So it's kind of gloopy, runny, sloppy, which is fine. Okay, it doesn't matter too much. She talks in the recipe about it being runny. This is pretty runny. The last lot I did when I first cooked this recipe was thicker than this, much thicker, and it still worked out fine. So I'm not too worried about that. Again, excuse the coughing. It's killing me. Always spray the pan in between your wraps. Now I am going to pop an apron on now because I don't want to get fat splattered all over me. We're heating the pan to make sure it's nice and hot, and then once it's hot we're going to turn the temperature down a little bit, because we do want it hot but we don't want it to burn the wrap before it's cooked. Now, we don't have to worry about cooking out the flour like you would in a normal pancake or wrap, because this doesn't have regular flour in it. It's got the coconut flour in it, which doesn't require the same cooking out that flour does. Shall we have a peek at the sauce? So you can see the sauce there, it's bubbling away. I haven't done anything to it. It's just sitting there. Shall we give it, let's give it a stir and just show you. It's quite thin, but I found that it doesn't need any thickener. It's fine once it's covering the wraps and everything, and with the enchiladas, it's fine. So the pan's nice and hot, so we're going to pop in some of the liquid. And we are very much going to treat it like a pancake. So slide it around. Now I'm going to turn it down a bit because this heat is quite high. Okay, now I'm going to pop the lid on and just let it cook a little bit, and then we're going to turn it over. The smoking that you might be able to see is coming from the heat coming through this cover. All right, so don't worry about that. Now the time has just gone off. That means it's time to switch off the sauce. So I've switched off the sauce now. That can stop bubbling away and it can just sit there. If you wanted to make that in advance, you could do so and pop it in the fridge for up to a week before you used it. So we're now going to turn over the wrap, like so. Now you can see it's got quite a nice colour to it. It does still look like a pancake, and that's okay, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day it's what it tastes like and the consistency of it that matters more than anything else. So we'll just cook that other side. So that's the other side cooked. You can see it looks great. And then I can pop it onto my plate. Now it's not as sturdy as a flour wrap, It's not going to be really, but it will be fine. You see my pan smoking hot. I've not used quite enough mixture in there, so I'm going to pop a bit more in. See, it's got thicker already, and that's the coconut flour. There we are. Let's pop the lid on. Okay, the top's about cooked. Oh, it's a bit unstable in the middle there actually. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit. This is trial and error, all right? So don't beat yourself up if they break, or you just try it and give it a go. Okay, I'm going to turn it now. Now, if you don't have a lid and you don't have one of these splatter covers, don't worry about it. They'll still taste the same. I think it just helps with the cooking process, that's all. So it just traps the heat in and gives it a bit more moisture. Don't worry about it if you haven't got one. Just do it without, like you would with pancakes. For any of my American or other viewers that make pancakes in the different way, you know, the small ones, then this is how we do it in the UK for Pancake Day, which is coming up soon, and also how similar to how the French do it with crepes. And I guess you just broken it. I guess. So you see how it's just cracked there? That's okay. Doesn't matter. It's absolutely fine. Just make sure we're careful with it when we move it and when we put it in with the chicken. So I was going to say, I guess you could make sweet pancakes out of this. So instead you could switch the herbs and spices and salt for cinnamon, mixed spice, things like that, in order to give it a different flavour and texture. I might try that on Pancake Day actually. This is about the last wrap I'm going to make. I've got a tiny bit of mixture left that I am going to cook off, and I just wanted to kind of show you that you can flip these pancakes, all right? So see, it moves around nicely. This one is now cooked, so let's see if I can flip it. So there we go. You can flip the pancake. So they are that's not a pancake, it's a wrap, but they are robust enough to be pancakes if you want to be flipping them ready for Pancake Day. I'm going to pop that one over there and then just cook my last one. Now, I have been cooking with olive oil, and that's because it's going to be a nice savoury wrap, and I want that lovely flavour that olive oil brings. So if you don't want to use olive oil, that's fine. You can use sunflower oil or coconut oil, whatever oil suits you. So we just got the last of the mixture here. It's just a little baby wrap. Once this wrap is finished, we are then going to cook the chicken and shred it, ready for assembling everything all together to cook. Now for me, this is 11:30 in the morning. We're going to be having this for tea tonight, so I can prepare all of this, put it all together, pop it in the fridge, and then have it in the oven for tea tonight with no problems. And as I said, you can make the sauce one day, you could make the wraps another day, and then you could do the chicken another day. Or you could do it all at once, like I am doing now. Now we have got, just going to have a look here. count from the other side. So we've got the baby wrap, so we won't count that. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wraps there. So it's a nice little stack, 7 wraps in a baby wrap. That's good going. So if you wanted to double the mixture or halve it for whatever you need, that's absolutely fine. So now we're on to the chicken. Right, so we've got the wraps ready, we've got the sauce ready, and we are now going to cook the chicken. Now I'm going to do this in a pressure cooker purely because it's really easy and quick, and it takes 8 minutes for me to cook it in the pressure cooker. You can cook it, fry it, you can cook it in the oven, you could have a cooked chicken that you just strip the meat off and shred it yourself. That's totally fine. But how I'm going to show you today is just a quick method of cooking the chicken and then shredding it. And I have a top tip that you may or may not have seen, but it is fantastic. So it'll save you a lot of time. 4 chicken breasts, I've salt and peppered them, and we're going to pop them into the pressure cooker. Now in the bowl of the pressure cooker, I've got some chicken stock because I want this chicken to be lovely and moist. So I've just popped a bit of chicken stock in there. I'm gonna go for probably 3/4 of a cup of stock in there, all right? So it's just to make sure it doesn't dry out, and it's going to cook nice and moistly in that liquid. Now I've only salt and peppered one side of these because obviously I'm cooking it in the stock, which has got seasoning in it from when I made it. So this is a Pressure King Pro, but you could use any pressure cooker and just check your meat settings and your cooking settings. Now I'm going to cook this on the meat function, and we're going to go for 8 minutes, and I'm going to have the valve closed. So I'm just going to leave that now to do its thing, and then come back to it in 8 minutes when it's done. If I'd have been cooking this on my own while I was doing the wraps, or before I even started the wraps, I'd have probably put the chicken in, especially if I was going to serve it straight away afterwards. But it's really up to you, because there are 3 components to this dish, and it's about how it's going to work best for you. So we'll be back in 8 minutes and see how the chicken's done, and make sure that it's cooked, and then we can shred it with the top tip. Here we are back with the chicken, and it's 8 minutes gone and it's cooked. We've let the steam out, so we should be able to get straight into the pressure cooker now. And just fish it out and show you. Actually, I'll show you with the camera because it's quite hot. So you can see there's the lovely chicken and all its juices. So we're going to pop it now into a bowl because we're going to shred it. So we're just going to leave it for a few minutes just to rest, and then we're going to shred it. So we've rested the chicken a bit and just let it just sit there in the bowl resting, so that when we shred it, it's going to be easier. Now to shred it, I'm going to use my mixer. And you're not going to believe this. If you've not seen this before, you're going to be astonished, and it's going to be a game changer for you. That doesn't normally happen. I've done this quite a few times. So we can see there that it's got big chunks in it still, and if you want to leave it like that, that's fine, but you can keep going and make it as finely shredded as you want to. So I'm going to stop there. You can go on longer if you want to. We've got some nice shredded pieces there, and you can see that it took like, I don't think it was less than a minute. And this is going to be enough to feed. There's going to be 5 of us for dinner tonight, and so this will be enough. Sometimes I will do extra because then I can pop it in the fridge and I can use it for sandwiches and things like that. So now we're going to construct the enchiladas. We're here at the end game with the sauce, the wraps and the chicken. So here with the chicken, we are going to pour some of the sauce onto the chicken just to kind of get it distributed across like so. So I've used about half the sauce. So now we're going to mix that up because we want the flavour in there with the sauce. And if you want it more saucy, then you know you could double the ingredients of the sauce, but we're just looking to spread this around in the sauce so that it's got that flavour inside the enchilada. Now here as well, you could add chilies or some finely chopped peppers, or some onions if you wanted to. But I'm just going to leave it plain as it is. Now, I've got my chicken, I've got my wraps, I've got my first bowl, all right? Now I'm doing one bowl, which is going to be for me, and another bowl which is going to be for everybody else, because I'm going to put cheese on top of that one, and obviously you can use whatever cheese you want. So what we do, I am going to use this mini wrap. We're going to pop in some of the mixture and we're going to wrap it up like that and pop it into the bowl. So see, looks like an enchilada. Then we're going to do another one. Like so. My mouth is watering. I can't wait for it to be dinner time tonight. Okay, so we've got the big one and the baby one in there. Just going to pop that in. Now what I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to drizzle over the sauce so that that goes all across the enchiladas. Now, I choose not to have cheese on mine. I am lactose intolerant, and so I really struggle with cheese. This is lovely and tasty without cheese. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I don't cover it, I just let it crisp up in the oven. And so that's that one done. I'm going to put this out the way because I don't want any cheese getting anywhere near it. So here we go then, we're going to pop in the rest of them here. You can see I'm handling the wraps quite nicely, they're not breaking up. Want some nice filling in there. There we go. Pop that like that, and into the bowl it goes. Okay, so one Luli wrap left over. I've got plenty of chicken left over, so I used 4 chicken breasts. So there is a good couple of cups full here. I bet that's 1.5 breasts maybe. So we've got that left over, we can pop that in the chicken. That's going to make some lovely sandwiches in the week. Or we could make enchiladas again later in the week if we wanted to. Now we've got the remainder of the sauce, so I'm going to drizzle it across each enchilada. And if you like lots of sauce, then you might want to make some more. I don't want to make it too soggy, but we do want to be able to taste it. Okay, so that's plenty of sauce there, so I'm going to pop the rest onto mine. Because I don't get the cheese, so I get extra sauce. Okay. Now we are going to put the cheese on. Just look at it. Just look at that. It looks so good. Okay, I almost don't want to put the cheese on top of it. So I've got quite a lot of cheese here because cheese is good. Even though I can't eat it, I recognise how lush it is, melted on lovely dishes like this. So I'm going to put really good handful. You can put as much cheese as you want, or no cheese, and you can use whatever cheese you want to use. So if you want to use a nut cheese, you could do. I've never used nut cheese, so I don't know how that acts. So put on the top of it whatever you want to put on it. And that, my friends, is enchiladas. I would pop it in the oven for about 15 minutes if I was to cook it now. So if you're making it all at once and throwing it in the oven now, 15 minutes at 180, and 180 is 350 or gas mark 4. And if you're going to pop it in the fridge and cook it for later, then 180 for about 25-30 minutes, but keep an eye on it because you don't want it to dry out too much, but it should take that amount of time to heat up properly. Okay, so enjoy your enchiladas. See you next time in the kitchen. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share.